guys, my name's Lisa.
And I'm Brittany.
And I'm Tara.
And this is the Imperfect Moms Club.
On this week's episode, you'll hear from Lisa as she talks about her daughter's open heart surgery.
The day after Lillian was born, we had our pediatrician come to the hospital, and they come in and they want to check the baby and listen to her heart and lungs and make sure that everything sounds okay. He heard a murmur, but then he let us know that these murmurs, it happen, newborn babies, sometimes they have murmurs, but then they go away, so the next day, the murmur was gone. So, yay, we were relieved. For the first couple months of Lillian's life, she was really small. She just wasn't gaining much weight. I mean, there were babies that we knew that were the same age as her, and they looked like literal giants. She was also very fussy while she ate. She couldn't really eat everything. We were bottle feeding her, and she would never finish her bottles, and I described her as very docile. Like, nothing really seemed to bother her. She wasn't too, she was kind of an angel baby, but she was sleepy all the time. And that's how I thought she was. Babies like naps, and so do their moms. And every time we went to the pediatrician, either for a scheduled appointment or if she was sick, she was always under the curve on both height and weight. And so I was a little bit concerned about that, not overly so, but I just didn't understand why she just wasn't gaining weight. I thought that, this is what some babies are like, and she's just small, and, she was just little, and, she was cute. She was like a tiny little potato. I mean, I didn't really, I'd never had a baby before, so I was okay with it. She was just tiny. I don't know, she's my tiny girl. At Lily's 2-month appointment, I started getting more concerned that she still was below the curve on weight. I was growing a little bit more concerned just because, she wasn't really growing up the way she should be, and, I was a little bit concerned about developmental issues. Anyway, the pediatrician listened to her heart again, and, wouldn't you know it, the murmur was back. The doctor didn't seem overly concerned. He probably didn't want to freak me out unnecessarily, but we were referred to a pediatric cardiologist. I thought, cool, it's probably nothing, but I'm glad this is being taken seriously. For Lily's cardiologist appointment, I went by myself since Paul had to work. He asked if I wanted him to go with me, but he had literally just started going back after paternity leave, so I said no. I felt bad, because I wasn't too worried. I mean, nothing could be wrong with my baby, right? So I just kind of, went in there, and I, strutted in there with my kid, and I was like, no, she's perfect, everything's fine. The nurse came in and did an EKG. The EKG was weird. I could barely see her under all the wires. She was so little, and they were just, all over her body, and I could barely see her, but she took it like a champ. She didn't fuss. Everything was fine. And then after that, the doctor came in, and he did the echocardiogram, which is just like a heart ultrasound. I really liked the doctor right away. He was really nice, and he made me feel like he really cared. Echocardiograms take forever. I was more antsy than she was, honestly. I don't know why they take so long, but it took 45 minutes. Again, Lily barely fussed. She didn't seem to mind the echo. She was just really sleepy. And then after what felt like forever, the doctor, he put his probe away, and then he looked at me and he said, okay, I have a few things to tell you. The doctor told me that Lily had a ventricular septal defect. And what that is a hole in the heart between the right and left ventricles. I wasn't expecting that. Obviously, I told Paul not to go because I was like, everything's fine. And then, there I was all alone in this doctor's office, and he's telling me that she has a hole in her heart, and I just, it was a weird moment, I guess. A lot of times they're detected before birth. When you go to the anatomy scan, you do the scan, a lot of times they'll see it, and so apparently, whoever did my anatomy scan, they didn't see it, and, which, is, it's fine, that happens, but, anyway, I wish we'd been more prepared, because we could have known. Honestly, I felt a lot of shame. I asked him if it was something that I did. So I had missed a few days on my prenatal vitamin, and so I told him I missed a few days of my prenatal. Did that have anything to do with this? And he immediately was like, oh my god, no, like these things just happen, it's not your fault, but of course it's people can tell you that all they want, right? If you're feeling shame, then the shame is just there. And so it was hard. I just was kind of in disbelief. I didn't really understand why. I figured she was perfect, and then to find out that she had this big problem, I don't know, it was pretty scary. Over the next few weeks, Lily was closely monitored by her cardiologist. He told us that for now we would put her on medication for inflammation around her heart. He told us to thicken her formula too, so that she, she wasn't really eating that well, but at least she'd get a little more bang for her buck. The goal was to buy time, I guess, because we were trying to avoid surgery, and so the goal was to buy time, and if she reached her goal weight, then maybe the heart would grow around the hole and it would kind of close it. That was the hope anyway. But eventually the doctor just said, she's not gaining weight, and she's still sleepy. So it was decided that she just needed the surgery. Honestly, I was relieved. I was kind of getting tired of going to these appointments and then them telling us the same thing. I just wanted my baby to be fixed. I know that surgery is scary, but for me it was do this one-time fix instead of just letting her go on being skinny and not eating well and just not being well. I just wanted them to go ahead and fix it. So I was relieved, but obviously also terrified. Our pediatric cardiologist referred us to the best surgeon that he knew, and the best surgeon he knew was the chief of surgery at Children's Hospital in Dallas. He told us that that's who he would take his kids to, and so we felt really good about it. And then we got to meet him. So my brain does this thing. I have dissociative disorder, and so when feelings are high and there's a lot going on, my brain tends to kind of shut down a little so that I don't have to feel it. My brain's just like, okay, we're not going to deal with that right now, So I went in there and everything was fine. I was feeling fine. And then they were like, oh, we need to take blood. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sure, that's fine. Anyway, so they got the needle, and they and I was watching because I needed to see what was happening. And then they put the needle in her arm. She didn't even cry. She probably didn't even feel it. But then I saw the blood going through the tube, and I flipped out. I think I literally said, nope, 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 and then broke down. And then one of the nurses had to take me into another room because I couldn't hold it together. I don't know. But anyway, after that whole thing, when I was feeling better, we came back into the room, and the nurse explained the surgery. Ventricular septal defects, there's two ways to fix them. There's one way, which is less invasive, and they fix it with a catheter. So they just, put a catheter down. I don't know exactly where it comes from, but it goes all the way, and they can just fix it like that. And then the more invasive way is open heart surgery, where they have to open the chest and then fix the heart. So unfortunately, we were, Lily's hole was smack dab in the middle of her heart, so we had to go with door number 2. And so they would have to open her chest and open her up, and they would have to stop her heart, which was really hard for me to hear. I mean, I guess it makes sense, I can't imagine fixing a hole in a heart that's still beating. It seems like it would be impossible, especially since baby hearts beat faster. So, how are you supposed to, like a moving target? But anyway, I wasn't prepared to hear these things. There was a lot that I just wasn't prepared to hear. So the nurse said that, how they fix these is they when the heart stops, they go in and they fix it with a patch of bovine pericardium. So I guess to lighten the mood, I responded with, she's gonna have a piece of cow in her. I just wanted to lighten the mood, but it didn't really work. Anyway, back to her having to get her heart stopped. So they do this by running a solution through the IV of electrolytes and potassium, and it stuns the heart, and the heart stops. And then that gives the surgeon about 20 minutes, she said, of 20 minutes of downtime, I guess. So, they can do the repair until the heart beats again, because the solution wears off after 20 minutes. So I was reassured again and again that her heart would resume beating. I asked like a million times, and they said, Lisa, her heart will start beating again. It's gonna wear off. It's just, I don't know. In that moment, I just sort of, I wanted them to just stop mine instead, She was 2.5 months. She was barely 3 months. She had just started using her heart, and they had to stop it, but anyway, so they would also put her on a heart and lung machine so that blood would keep circulating, to which I responded with, heart and lung machine? Does that mean that you have to do something with your lungs too? And the nurse actually told me that, parents usually don't ask the tough questions. But I'm the kind of person, I need to know everything, so I'm not going to leave a stone unturned. So, heart and lung machine, so yes, they would have to collapse one of her lungs to access the heart. Anyway, so once the nurse was done with her spiel, we got to meet the surgeon. I liked him right away. He wanted to get to know us first. I remember he asked us questions about just us for like 10 minutes before we went into the surgery. And he said that Lilly was a literal giant compared to some of the babies he's done the same surgery on. So he told us there's no need to worry. I mean, obviously easier said than done, but it was nice that he had done this before, and he had done this on smaller hearts. So we knew he was capable. Once we had done the initial meeting, then we scheduled a pre-op appointment for her, which was scheduled for a month before the actual surgery. So we went back to the hospital, and they had to do, they do blood pressure, and they have to do chest x-ray and then more blood work. The chest x-ray, I mean, again, I don't know why I just wasn't expecting things to happen. I just kind of like, like I went in there, but then, they had to do all these things to my baby, and I just didn't handle it very well. But for the chest x-ray, I was given, a protective apron, and then the tech told me to hold Lily's arms up behind her head. And she did not like that one bit. Lily was very, very unhappy. She was screaming, it was kind of nice because it was a change. I was like, oh yeah, like she's got some life in her, but, at the same time it was heartbreaking. And then, so they did the chest x-ray, and after that was done, they took the apron off of me, and I just cried. Again, my brain did its thing, and then emotions were too much, and then they just came right out of my face. So I didn't handle that very well. And then after the chest x-ray, they had to do more blood work, which makes sense because surgery. But Mama Bear came out because the girl who was taking her blood that day, I guess, didn't really know where to go to get all the blood she needed, and so she had to keep poking my baby. And so I just had to leave the room. I think I started pacing up and down the hallway because I wanted to punch her. So anyway, after that was done, then that was the end of the appointment. But yeah, I wasn't, I didn't do too well. I didn't have that much chill that day.
Like what you're hearing so far? Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you, and we really love sharing with you guys. Now back to the show.
After the pre-op appointment, we saw the pediatric cardiologist one more time, and he wanted to do a repeat echo. So he did the echo, and she had another problem. I was getting sick of it. I felt like every time we went in, there was another issue to talk about. But she she had another problem. She had an aorta coarctation. And an aorta coarctation is, it's a thinning of the aortic arch, which means that, blood has trouble going through that part because it's really thin. And so this isn't something that you can just buy time for with medication or thickening formula. This is something that requires surgery. So I was done by this point. I was just like, oh my God, like, why is, what are all these problems? And why does my baby have all these problems? I just didn't understand. Because of this added issue, it kind of added some urgency to it. So our pediatrician, or our pediatric cardiologist, said that he would call the surgeon and see if they could do the surgery sooner and then fix both problems at once, because there was no way I was gonna let them cut my baby open twice. So I was really glad that they suggested that, and then Lily went into surgery that very next week. The night before surgery, or the day before surgery, my husband Paul's dad and stepmom actually came into town. It was really nice of them to come be with us for that week, because they didn't want us to be alone, which is really nice. We got Popeyes for dinner. I remember that. And Lily had to fast. She could only drink clear liquid and Pedialyte. She hated the Pedialyte. But anyway, we had to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. the next morning, so we went to bed. I packed her, I packed a suitcase of hospital stuff. My husband bought her a Winnie the Pooh stuffed animal before she was born. So I packed that because I wanted her to have something. I couldn't really sleep that well, but we had to wake up at 4:30 a.m. the next morning because we had to be at the hospital at 6. I was really nervous. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't really know what was going on, but anyway, we got up and we had to go, and we got to the hospital, and they brought her back, and we put her in this gown. The gown was huge on her. She was literally swimming in this gown, but she took a little nap on the bed, which was nice. We waited. Hospitals always make you wait a long time, but I managed to to be relatively stress-free. I just, I wanted it to, I didn't like waiting, I guess, because I just wanted it to happen. She was napping, and then the nurse came in to take her away, and so they took her for surgery. She was in surgery for about, it was 6 hours from the time that we said goodbye to the time that we saw her again. But the actual surgery is only 2 hours. It's just that, they have to sedate her and do all the IVs and do all the stuff. So the surgeon's actually is only in there for those 2 hours because he cuts. But they have to do a bunch of stuff before and after. So we didn't get to see her for a while. It was weird. I remember my husband and I and his dad and stepmom were just walking around the hospital. We didn't really know where to go. They have cafeterias there, but we spent a lot of time just sitting. They have a waiting room near the ICU, so we just spent a lot of time there. I tried to take a nap. They have these lounge chairs for people to sleep. I couldn't sleep, but basically we just, I don't know. Paul's dad and stepmom got us a hotel room, so they spent some time doing that, which was cool because we were able to stay right across from the hospital, so we'd be super close but still be able to get some much needed rest. After the 6 hours, I was getting calls from the OR nurse about every half hour just to keep me updated, which is really nice. And then she called me that final time and said, okay, we're done with surgery, she's out, and you can see her, when we wheel her out and wheel her into the ICU, but we weren't allowed to go in there yet. They needed to kind of, we had to wait for them to kind of get her in the bed and get her all set up. So we went into the hallway. It was kind of a long hallway, and they came down and they were wheeling her crib, and she was just laying there. They had tubes and stuff, and then they had they had a pacemaker. She was hooked up to a machine that was kind of regulating her heart rate or something, and so there's stuff everywhere. But then, you know, you could kind of see you could see her face, and you could kind of see your skin. And so one of the nurses that was pushing her said, you know, if you can see her, you can touch her. So I was able to touch her little nose, you know, and so that was good. Just, you know, I can touch her and she's there, and you know, and then we you know, met with the surgeon while they were setting her up in the ICU room. The surgeon came out to talk to us. When we were in there with the surgeon, they bring you into this like tiny room, and then I think the surgeon actually called us on the phone or something, and we talked. So we talked to the surgeon, and he said that so they had to go through, in order to get to her aorta, they had to paralyze one of her vocal cords, because I guess they had to go through her vocal cords to get there, which I mean, I'm not a heart surgeon, so I don't really know, but seemed weird to me. But anyway, so they had to paralyze one of her vocal cords, and so, you know, we were told that she would sound a little different, and, you know, but she was okay, and that, you know, we would have to follow up afterward. But, you know, at this point I'm just like, oh my god, like, why do we keep adding stuff? Like, when is this gonna be over? But I mean, surgery went really well, she did well, you know, so it was done, and we were happy, and everything was fine. So after we had that talk, the nurses let us know that we could go to the ICU room. We just kind of headed straight there. They didn't allow all of us in at the same time. I think they only allowed 3 people in at the same time. So Paul's dad and his stepmom took turns being with me and Paul. But so we walked in there, and, you know, there's just these big machines, and then just this crib in the middle of the room, and little Lily is just in there, and there's tubes everywhere, and, you know, nothing prepares you for seeing your baby in the ICU. I mean, nothing prepares you for seeing your baby in the hospital in general, but it's just, the ICU is just a different thing. She's just unconscious, and she's sleeping, and she's there, and, you know, I mean, it's cold, and I don't know, I mean, you know, the nurses were really nice, but it's just, you know, I couldn't touch her. She was like all bundled up, and, you know, it's really freaky. Yeah, freaky is a good word, I guess. They told us before the surgery, at the pre-op, they told us that she would probably be in the ICU for 4 to 5 days, but my baby was only in there for 18 hours. Yeah, so they said, you know, 4 to 5 days, and then she'll go to a regular room. But yeah, she's my little rock star, and she made it out of the ICU in 18 hours. So we ended up only being in the hospital for 7 days, which is pretty exciting. So we got to leave. Yeah, we left on a Friday. I remember Friday was the last day, and we went home after just 7 days. Well, because of my dissociation, I get hyper focused on different things. Like, I'm my baby's in the hospital, but I'm gonna focus all of my attention on something else. I actually got really into Instagram, strangely enough. Growing my following was like the thing that I wanted to do, and I couldn't do or think about anything else, and that was it. So I just full speed ahead, just, you know, I was in there, and I was looking up, and I was joining, you know, follow loops, and I was doing all that stuff on Instagram, which sounds really weird. I mean, why would I do that? My kid's in the hospital. But again, my brain I needed something else to focus on, I guess. The day after her surgery, so she'd been in the ICU for, you know, the rest of that day and overnight, and the next day, she was doing really well. So, you know, my husband and I were there, and we were sitting there, and we were just kind of looking at her, and the ICU nurse came in, and she looked at me, and she said, "Hey, Mom, do you want to hold her?" Guys, when I say that I bawled, I broke down, and I didn't even feel, before you cry, there's like a lump in your throat and you can feel yourself about to cry. This is just floodgates opened, and I just cried. I cried so hard. They sat me down in this chair, and, they put Lily in my arms, and I just cried and cried and cried. And I was telling her how beautiful she was and how strong she was and how proud of her I was. It was really, Paul got it on video, and it was a nice moment. But yeah, I can't watch that video to this day. It was such a happy moment, but it's incredibly triggering to watch. I was flipping through photos on my phone the other day, and there was one of just her laying in the ICU bed, and I literally, it felt my body crumple over itself, like it was just folded over, and I could physically feel the trauma of that experience, and I had to turn my phone off. I couldn't do it. It was making me feel physically sick. And I can't even, there are videos of her from before surgery that I can't even watch, because, now that I know what was happening, she just looks so skinny and looks so sick, and she was just so sleepy, and I don't know, I can't, sometimes I just can't bring myself to look at those pictures. Immediately after Lily's surgery, she just completely, she was just a different baby. She was more active, and she was awake more, and she was eating well. It was a bit of a struggle for me, honestly, because I had just gotten used to how she was. She's first baby, newborn, you spend 3 months getting used to how, your baby is and learning your baby, and then all of a sudden now I had to get used to a totally new baby. I think I told Paul, I was like, are you sure this is our baby? They gave us the right one when we left. She was so healthy, and her heart was all fixed, and she could do all these things, and I noticed, she was growing, and she was getting, chunkier, and she finally had the rolls on her arms, and it was wonderful to see. But again, it was a bit of a struggle, just because now, she was actually letting me know when she wasn't happy about something, and so, but it was good. Now you can, you wouldn't even know that Lily had anything wrong with her at all. She is 21 months old, and she is the spunkiest, most active toddler you've ever seen. She's so smart, and she's just so healthy, and I love it. I'm so thankful that she had the surgery and that it went so well. She did really well, and she every time she goes to see the cardiologist for follow-up, it's always good news. Her heart always looks great. She hates getting echocardiograms, so it's always a struggle to get her to lay there and accept what's happening. But they always, they take a while, and they look at the pictures, and everything's fine. So she's wonderful. The doc always says she's A-okay. I actually recently got, because I'm expecting baby girl number 2 in just a few weeks, actually. But so I was concerned that she might have similar issues, because I really don't want to go through all this again. So I got a fetal echocardiogram. My OB recommended it, but I probably would have asked for one anyway. But anyway, they did the fetal echo on me, and the doctor said, we went to the same cardiologist that sees Lily, because I figured just keep it in the family, But he said that everything looks great. He doesn't see any problems. We didn't even have to do a follow-up. He's going to want to get just one echo after she's born, just to kind of make sure, just because I guess it's, it'll be easier to obviously see her heart and everything and stuff after she's out. But other than that, yeah, the new baby's gonna be fine too. So I'm excited, because quite honestly, I'm not about to take 2 babies to the cardiologist every 4 months to get echocardiograms. It's a bit much. If anyone listening to this podcast episode is a pediatric nurse. You guys are rock stars. I'm so thankful for the nurses at Children's Hospital Dallas and for our surgeon. Especially the nurses. You guys, our ICU nurse didn't just make sure that Lily was okay. She made sure that I was okay. She made sure that Paul was okay. You know, it's like we were a team. I ordered TIFS treats for our ICU nurse because I just couldn't leave without sending her something to kind of show her, you know, how much she meant to us. And she was wonderful. So you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much to Children's Hospital Dallas. You guys are doing amazing things.
Thank you all so much for joining us this week on the Imperfect Moms Club. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to visit our website, theimperfectmomsclub.buzzsprout.com, where you'll be able to subscribe as well as find links to our social media accounts and a list of our episodes. We would also love hearing from you, so feel free to leave us comments on social media or suggestions for future discussion topics. We want this podcast to be as relatable and accessible as possible, so your input would be greatly appreciated.